The Chicago Bulls are slated to start their West Coast trip today when they take on the Houston Rockets. We'll talk about what are the things to watch in this West Coast trip. Of course, we're going to preview the game against the Rockets and Saturday. So that means we're diving into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Bulls start their West Coast trip today, right? And I think that this is going to be an important trip for a lot of different reasons. There's going to be a lot of the tanking fans, the pro tankers, that look at, do the Bulls start losing more games because of the level of competition that they face, and then starts correcting the tank in their minds, of course, right? And that's a fair thing to look at over the course of this. When you look at this thing, and this is why, for the pro tankers, it has been such, a tough period of time. Over the Bulls' 4-game winning streak, right, they have cut the odds of moving into the top four from 26.3% to 13.9%, almost half, right? And when you look at the teams underneath the Bulls, it's a chance that continues to happen, right? I've adapted the mindset at this point in time. What happens, right? Players are supposed to go out there. They're supposed to compete. And that's the thing, right? I said it on the live stream in the last post-game show. The players are doing their job. The players are out there doing what they're supposed to do. And they're supposed to be competing. They're supposed to be fighting. They're supposed to be developing. And I can never be mad at players. And not to say that a lot of people are mad at the players per se, but the organizational incompetence and the players doing their thing are very different things, right? And so that's the thing that we're in right now. This team has been fighting. It's been playing with heart. It's been competing. It's been executing really well. And I, for one, just love to see the way that the team's been playing with that heart. And a lot of Bulls fans share that sentiment, right? When you look at it, it's a tale of, or a conversation of, two different viewpoints, right? Because of course you have the people that view, well, the Bulls should be doing everything in their power to make sure they're in the top four in the next two drafts with the depth of the next two drafts, right? And then you have the fans that look at it and say, well, I mean, we have players here that are good. I don't want to see those players jettisoned off, which means that if they're going to be here, I want to see them develop. And that's just really the tale of two halves when it comes down to it. Over the last 10 games for the Chicago Bulls, right? On a 4-game winning streak, but over the last 10 games, the Bulls have the 12th best net rating in the game of basketball, the 14th best defensive rating in the game of basketball, the 13th best offensive rating in the game of basketball, right? So we're out there playing assist, 11th in assist percentage per game as well. So the Bulls are out here playing really good basketball, and they're starting to show kind of those bright spots, right? Whereas some people looked at this roster and they looked at it as like, we're going to be bad for the next 5 years if we want to do anything. You now could see that strategically with the right acquisitions and the right draft picks over the next few years, that maybe this team, if they can really capture this heart and this really is an identity, maybe it's not that far off, right? And I was asked an amazing question in the comment section the other day, and somebody asked me, well, Hayes, how close do you think this is? And I'm paraphrasing. How close do you think this is to a legitimate identity? And my response to that is that I can't say for sure yet with this stretch. I would want to make sure that Josh Giddey and Coby White and the balance that we're starting to see, the chemistry that we've seen develop from them, if that's going to be a real thing, I'm a lot closer to believing in that this team has forged a bit of an identity, right? Because Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, these guys are veterans in the league, right? So I trust who they are as players. When you look at even Modest Bucilis, like, I know Modest is going to have the right mindset of being in attack mode, right? You know that part of it. You don't doubt that his mindset, like, he has hit a bit of a rookie wall, but you don't doubt his mindset and how he's going to work. Ayo Dosunmu is so consistent as far as his production, as far as the effort that he gives, right? His scoring production can be up and down depending on what role he plays, because he plays a lot of different roles for the Bulls. But I think overall, like, what he gives you, is a solid level of effort, either defensively, and he can still be a solid offensive player for you. So when you look at this right now, right, the Bulls and their lottery odds, it is what it is. At this point, it's out of anybody's control. The Bulls are going to bull, and we'll see where the chips fall, where they may. But, I mean, just looking at where things sit, the Bulls have clearly affected the tank, right, which has never really been a tank because, as we've told you, the Bulls were never really out to be tanking. So we'll see what the future holds there. We'll see what it ends up turning into for the Bulls. But I want to talk about what's the things to watch over this West Coast trip, right? 6 games, 10 nights. 3 of those games against some of the top teams in their conference. And their Bulls have a real chance to go 3-3 over this. If they do anything better than that, we'll see. If they do anything worse than that, pro tankers will celebrate. But one, Coby White's play. Coby White has been so good over the last 7 games. Of course, I want to see how much more consistent that's going to be. With Josh Giddey out, Coby White is going to need to do a huge part of the scoring load. Nikola Vučević is a carcass of Vuce as of right now from the 2 games we've seen. So you can't really expect him as of right now to really give that extra offensive push that we need. But Trey Jones is giving it. Kevin Huerter's giving it. And it's going to be as a committee, right? The last game, it was Julian Phillips with a big production night off the bench. Who steps up off the bench any given night for the Bulls? It's going to be P. Will some nights. It's going to be Julian Phillips. It's going to be Jalen Smith, who needs to be back into the rotation. It's going to be that. Trey Jones's play. I said it before. Trey Jones has basically saved his career, for a lack of a better word, right? Not to say that, talent, I think, always comes to the top, but I think that Trey Jones, before this stretch, would have gone into free agency and probably had to take in a veteran minimum to prove what he can bring just because of him not playing a lot in Spurs and falling out of that rotation. We've seen it happen from players all the time, right? And teams use that as an opportunity to get a player that they do believe in that's going to be able to come in and play, but get him at a cheaper price. Trey Jones is now definitely his price. The price has risen, right? Yesterday's price isn't today's price. It's going to be Trey Jones' motto in the offseason. But Trey Jones, how does he keep up that play? I said it with that first game with Giddey out. Trey Jones, Coby White, they have kind of more of a natural fit. See how that continues for us, right? And then next 2, can Julian Phillips put up a repeat performance? Like Julian talked about that he hasn't really played like that since high school, right? He hasn't had a game like that in his last game since high school. And Julian is a guy that, depending on what Bulls fan that you ask, some people are like, well, Julian clearly isn't an NBA player. Shout out to my boy Justin at Bloody Horns. And some people look at Julian and say, hey, no, Julian just hasn't really, he hasn't been consistent, hasn't had a consistent role. But, this guy is still a young player in this league that still has a lot to uncover. And that's the way I look at Julian. He's only in, his second year. He has a lot left, in the NBA tank, a lot left on his rookie deal to show what he can grow and develop into. And I do think that he deserves to keep playing, as long as he's playing well, to do that. P. Will spot in the rotation. We saw Julian Phillips get off the bench before P. Will yesterday. In the last game and perform really well. But P. Will had a solid game as well with the effort, the energy level, all those type of things. If you're getting P. Will and Julian Phillips both playing well, and you're in a position where you have to ask yourself, who has the hot hand right now? Not just offensively, who's giving the best impact for the team? That's a good place to be in, especially with the Bulls bench, right? Being where it is right now. So that's important. And then the last thing to watch out for is Nikola Vučević, man. Who is Vuce right now? I've said that he's weekend at Bernie's because Vuce just is not looking like an NBA player right now. Now, again, he's coming back from injury. In fairness, let's wait and see how he continues to look coming back from that injury. But I tell you what, as things stand right now, Nikola Vučević, man, I tell you what, bro, I know I went in, maybe some of it was a little unjust, but Vuce got to play better. And he has to actually look like it's one thing to play bad, but that you're actually giving effort. Vuce played bad, and it looked like he had no interest in being in that game. And that's a problem. So, seeing how that continues to develop for Vuce is going to be another thing to watch, of course. So we'll see those things. Those are things I'm looking for over this West Coast trip. Of course, Modest Vucevic, the rookie wall. I think it's a real thing that he's hit there. But overall, Billy Donovan's coached some pretty good games here, too, as well, which got to give Billy Donovan credit for when he coaches well, because I criticize him when bad things happen, but Vuce has done a pretty damn good job. Not Vuce. Billy Donovan's done a pretty damn good job at putting players out there when they're playing well. Now, the big man rotation, you got to get Jalen Smith in there. Otherwise, it is what it is. Now, we do face off against the Houston Rockets today, and this is a team in the Houston Rockets that's third right now in the Western Conference. They're 42-25. this is going to be a difficult matchup. They're 7th in net rating on the season, but they're 1st in net rating over the last 5 games. They have a net rating of 20 over the last 5 games. If that was to be a net rating for a season, it would be the highest net rating of a team in league history. That's more than the Bulls when they went 72-10. That's higher than the Warriors when they went 73-9. That's how good they're playing over the last 9 games. Their offensive rating has been 6, despite the offense being one of the things you look at with this team and say, it's not quite there. Of course, they've been 1st in defensive rating, at 10th in true shooting percentage, 1st in rebounding, which is going to be a big key here for the Bulls, and 17th in steal percentage. So the Bulls are going to have to take care of the ball, right? They're 10th in steal percentage over the course of the season. This is a team that plays the passing lanes. They use their youth, they use their athleticism, and it creates easy offense for them. The Bulls got to watch out for this one, this game. An efficient night is going to be important for the Bulls in this one. Whatever your offense looks like, efficient. Attack, attack, attack. That's going to be important against the Houston Rockets. You want to go into attack mode. You want to try to get them on their heels. Amon Thompson is out, which is thank God for the Bulls, because if you're able to put Amon Thompson either on Trey or either on Coby, right, depending on who gets hot, that can turn into a long night for those guys. So luckily, Amon Thompson is supposed to be out tonight, but they still are. The team plays a great brand of defense. They're coached really well by Ime Udoka. So you got to look out for this team, and we'll see what the Bulls have tonight. Hopefully, they come in, they play with some energy. Win or lose, I just want to see my team fight, right? That's what it comes down to. Put up a fight. How well do you compete? And we'll see where the chips fall after that. But let me know your guys' thoughts on all that down below. Let's go ahead and get into the voicemails for today. This first one, this one is from Brian.
Hayes. Brian here. Hey, man. How you doing? Yeah, so, like you, I have always been a Vuce supporter. Love Vuce. Always have. Last night's game, don't like Vuce anymore. I'm done with Vuce. I still like him, but I would like him on another team, just like you. So, just out of curiosity, because I'm a little bored and thinking about it, who's the best Bulls player that you would be willing to attach to Vuce to get off of him next year? And then we're done with the Vuce experiment. It's kind of interesting. Kind of. I don't know. It's a slow week. What do you want? Anyway, that's it. Can you believe how short this was? See ya!
Who would I be willing to pair with Vuce to get him out of town? Here's the thing. Because Vuce is an expiring contract, I'm not willing to pair a lot with him. I wouldn't even pair P. Will with Vuce to get him out of town, right? Unless you're also getting a first-round pick. Now, if you're getting a first-round pick back, then maybe you can convince me the P. Will part of it. And again, I'm not you guys know I've killed P. Will, but I still think even at his youth, his contract is his contract. The Bulls aren't really strapped for cash. If depending on how he finishes the season. Javon Carter's a given, right? I'll say this. If it's a playoff team that wants Vuce, I'd be willing to pair Kevin Huerter with Vuce. Like, that's probably the highest that I'll go. Not because I don't like Kevin Huerter, but with Kevin Huerter shooting, I could see a team wanting that, especially if they're adding Vuce. Now, that's a lot of money. That's putting them more towards a $40-ish million, right, for them to match. So there's that part of it. But I'm not pairing a whole lot with Vuce. At this point, I'd be willing to just, if a team's just like, we got 2 seconds for you and enough salary to match it, and I'm willing to take that. At this point, Vuce is just actively hurting the team. He doesn't fit in with the team, and I'd much rather take a look at younger players at this point in time. That's just where I am, right? So I'm not willing to pair a whole lot with Vuce to get him out of town, mainly because he's expiring, and there's that part of it. So now that could change. If we do draft a center in this draft, that changes some. That changes a lot, right? So I guess that's the way to put it. If we are drafting a center in this draft, then yeah, I'd be willing to pair with a little bit more, right, with Vuce to get him up out of town. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is Reginald. I'm just calling to, after I just saw your video about all these bad teams on NBA Central. Well, at least not all the bad teams, all the teams that, big salary cap. So teams like Phoenix, that's like, they're 50 million over. From what I can tell, a lot of those teams are going to be looking for essentially a sucker who's going to he's going to be willing to take on some high price contract like a Bradley Beal. And it's my fear that it's probably going to be the Bulls because the Bulls have been suckers as of late. But when looking back at these teams with no salary cap space, which teams are most likely AK is going to do business with in order to get drafted? That's my question. Because I just have a feeling that he's willing to do it because as of late, he has been that sucker. But thanks. What's your opinion?
So the Bulls really don't have the cap to take on Bradley Beal, right? We talk about them having future cap flexibility, which they do, right? But they don't really have it this offseason to try to take on Bradley Beal's contract. So, you would have to send out salary, things like that. So I'm really not worried about Bradley Beal being somebody that the Bulls require. The Phoenix Suns really don't even have the picks to entice the Bulls to do that unless it's in a 3-team trade. So maybe that part of it, but I just don't think that I'm not too worried about that. Now, as far as teams that I think the Bulls can pair with to do business, there are a couple that come to mind initially. First is Minnesota, right? And the reason why I go to Minnesota often in these type of talks, because I do think that whether it's Trey Jones in the sign and trade, which is a possibility there, especially if they, depending on how they shape up their money, right? Before the Nas Reed extension, which kind of everybody's expecting, they do have a little bit of a cap space there, right? But let's say they sign the Nas Reed extension, and then they want to sign and trade a guy like Trey Jones, right? Which could very well work for their team. If that's what they end up doing, then I'd be willing to pair with the Minnesota Timberwolves because they do have 2 first-round picks in this draft. They're going to have Utah's draft pick, and they're going to have Detroit's draft pick because Detroit's is protected 14 through 30, but the Detroit Pistons are firmly in the playoffs. They're going to be in those playoffs. So I think that's a instant team that I'd be looking to pair with is the Minnesota Timberwolves because we have, whether it's Lonzo, whether it's Trey Jones, maybe they want some shooting, Kevin Huerter, which they have Dante DiVincenzo there, so maybe not, right? But that's definitely a team that's on my radar for the Bulls to possibly pair with. Another team up that I definitely be willing, even though they're in our division, is the Detroit Pistons, right? We don't know what the Detroit Pistons are going to do, what they look to. They have all their first-round picks outright. I don't know if they're really interested in anybody on the Chicago Bulls, but that's another team that I'd look to do some business with. It really just comes down to any team that's that may value getting talent back rather than having a draft pick in this draft, right? Like, for example, the Orlando Magic could be one of those teams, but they could not be one of those teams, right? But mainly because the Orlando Magic have their own draft pick, right? They've fallen out of grace, but they do have Denver's pick, right? Denver's pick is protected 1 through 5. We know that Denver isn't going to have a pick that low. So, but the Orlando Magic have Denver's first-round pick to play with. I know that's going to be in like the sub 25, but again, another team that I'd be willing to pair with. The Orlando Magic's problem is offense, right? They need offense. Their defense is pretty good. They seem like they're kind of falling out of love with Wendell Carter. So maybe Vooch makes sense of a reunion there. I know I'm hopeful wishing there, but those are the kind of the teams that I'm looking at, right? Any team that has multiple first-round picks and one of those first-round picks being lower, right? Because I don't think anybody on the Bulls is really going to garner a top, 16 pick. So you're looking at more of those teams that have picks from playoff teams. And I think those are teams that I'd be looking to pair with. So great question there, though, Reginald. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Soul.
What's good, Hayes? This your boy Soul, calling out of Toledo, Ohio. Man, I got a real question. I was sitting down listening to today's episode and stuff like that. And, at the beginning of the year with Josh Giddey, I was not really a fan of whatever the case may have been. It wasn't that after I realized what his age was. For some reason, I thought he was older by him being in the NBA for a while. But, and throughout the games with him, it seemed like with his performance and stuff going on, going up and stuff, I could see the value of him. Can I ask you a question? Truthfully, to the Bulls, if they don't come out with a full market or whatever the case may be for him, like sign us to like a 4 or 5 year deal, could they this offseason maybe sign him to like a 1 year deal and then re-up and do the full deal like maybe the summer like next year or like 26 or something like that? I wonder if something like that's an option. Like, I'm not really sure, and I know you know a little bit more about that, but let me know, do you think that would probably be an option, or could it be an option with Josh Giddey? Because honestly, I'm kind of like with you. I believe he's worth anywhere between 22 and 27. But, you know, if the market ain't looking like it's supposed to or whatever, do you think that maybe they could sign him for that 1 year and then get more data to be able to give him, like, you know, if he wants that 30 or whatever the case may be? Because, like I said, we really don't know. But I was just wondering that. Man, be red, go Bulls. Hopefully we'll win tonight. Peace.
The chances of Josh Giddey signing a 1-year deal is highly unlikely for a few reasons, right? Like, players typically want long-term stability, right? You got to look at a player like Josh Giddey who has had some ankle injuries. Let's say Josh Giddey does suffer a major injury, right? That 1-year deal doesn't do him any justice if that's the case, right? So I don't think, like, at minimum, you're probably looking at a 3-year deal that Josh Giddey's willing to accept. And the Bulls also, they want to protect their investment because keep in mind, he's a restricted free agent now. If you sign him a 1-year deal, he goes back on free agency as an unrestricted free agency. So let's say that Josh Giddey, in this flash that he's shown, right, that this play that he's had for basically the last month, let's say he plays even 85% of that next year, even 80% of that next year, right, which is still a 12, 8-8 guy, right? If he does that, the market for him is going to be huge, and then you don't have the ability to match the contract. So restricted free agency, typically you don't see 1-year deals signed because it just doesn't make sense. You want to, if you view that player as even potentially part of your future, you want to lock in that investment and have them there for a couple of years. So no, I don't think there's any chance of a 1-year deal. And I think more than likely, unless Josh Giddey just be like, oh, I'm just accepting the qualifying offer, which in that case, he's basically signifying he's up out of there. So, you know, that's the thing I think you're looking at there. So I'm not too worried about a 1-year deal. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Shay.
Hayes, I love you to death, man. You're my dog. But, man, what you said on Locked On Bulls, you know I said that in a couple of my voicemails. You know I said it. I said every year we got to give Coby White some slack, especially since we've had to make him change his role every single year that he's been a Chicago Bull. From having him start, come off the bench, and start again, then come off the bench, then have him play with Josh Giddey, man. You know I've said that many times before, bro. Look, great minds think alike, but you know I'm the first one to say that. I believe Coby and Ayo are two Bulls that we should give a lot of leeway to due to the fact that we made them change their roles every single time. I know you said it on Locked On Bulls, but you gotta remember, I said it first, bro. I've been saying it since the season started. We can't give him the same leeway we gave Patrick Williams, because Patrick Williams has more than enough chance, but I believe that Coby White, we need, and Ayo DeSumo, we need to get them as much grace as possible because we've asked everything that we've ever asked them to do, they've done it. Whether it's work on their defense, be that scorer, they've done it. And they've improved every year. And we've had to ask them to do things out of their roles. And I've said that since the beginning of last year. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
My nigga, Shay, respectfully, you want credit for things everybody said. Go back and look at the first video that blew up on this channel. My first big video in which I said the Bulls would be crazy to trade Coby White. His third year in the league, I talked about how his role changed every single year. You're not the first one to say that Coby White's role changed every year. So get your head out of your ass, bro. I'm not the first one to say that. Anybody with eyes has seen that Coby White's role has changed every single year he's been in this league. Every single year. There's not been a single season that his role that he had the prior season did not change the following season and in the offseason. So what are you talking about, right? But yes, Coby White has been through tremendous and shown so much versatility in what he's done because his role has changed and he always has found a way to be basically productive in some shape, form, or fashion in that role. That is why, like, I look at Coby and I'm like, I want Coby to stay. But, you know, I know it's a business and I would be remiss to say that there's not a chance they don't move off Coby White. We'll see what the future holds there. We'll see. I'm not saying for sure. I would love to see him stay, but, you know, we'll end up seeing how things shake out. Let's get into the last voicemail, man. And we got the return of Auntie Goon in the building.
Hey, this is Auntie Goon. Listen, Vucevic got to go. I ain't gonna lie, since I'm up on All-Star break, this Bulls team been a different Bulls team. Vuce slowing us down. Vuce, I don't know what he got going on, but this bitch gotta go off season. I pray to God he go. Because our young team, what we got right now, they balling. Look, if they lose or not, I love the way they play. Vuce, since he came back, he fucking us up, bro. This bitch ass, slow ass nigga, big feet nigga got to go. He got to go, Hayes. Hey, you know, Auntie Goon will keep it real. Listen, just because I don't be on your podcast or Bobby or hey, Uncle Steve doing the podcast, I just see y'all shit every day at work. Vuce got to go. I watch the game every day. Vuce is 4-0. Vuce down there calls up the game. Vuce got to go. He stood there, let a motherfucking just do a dunk on him. Just stood there. Look, I can't deal with Vuce. He got to go. I'm sorry. Nephew, Vuce got to go. He got to go. He got to go. This podcast is for Vuce only. Vuce only. He got to go. And I don't know. You got to talk to Billy Donovan. Why the fuck he ain't putting Jaden Smith in? What the fuck his problem is? Vuce got to go. Put Jaden Smith in. We was doing good with Jaden Smith. Put this bitch ass nigga back on the injured list, the bench. I don't give a fuck what you do with him. Get him off that court. Get him off the court, Hayes. Get him off the court. Auntie Goon, you know what it is, baby. It's never land with me. You already know it. I call these motherfuckers the corny-ass Bulls. I can't call them corny-ass Bulls with Vuce on the team. Without Vuce on the team, we the corny-ass Bulls. We ain't the bullshitters no more. We ain't Chicago bullshitters no more. We the corny-ass Bulls, but Vuce got to go. I'm sorry. Vuce got to get the fuck up out of here. He down there calls up the motherfucking game. Vuce got to go. He got to go. He got to go. We 4-0. Bulls been winning 4-0. Vuce down there calls that last game. He got to go, bro. Hey, it's to Auntie. He got to go. Love you, gang. You already know how we get out.
Shout out to Goon. You're right. Vuce got to go. And I think that's just, I know a lot of people have been saying this for years. I've been somebody that's defended what Vuce does bring to the table. But I think now seeing just what a center that just gives effort on both sides of the ball and how much that has changed the Bulls' identity, it's like I don't want to go back. Like I can't go back to the Vuce that just does not give effort on defense. Vuce who is so flat-footed, can only play in drop coverage. Like we've seen Zach Collins, even as not the most physical, not even the most athletic, not even the most talented player, but just by his effort and what he gives and how that's helped this team, right? So, yeah, I think that the writing's on the wall for Vuce. They should have moved him at the trade deadline. They talked about and said that they've done some groundwork on an offseason move. Let's see what that groundwork gets us because, yeah, Vuce does not fit in. So that's my thought process. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799 for the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. But that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.